Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be showcasing some brand new October 2022 release products from Mama Elephant and create a Christmas shaker card. I'm going to be using the Gift Crate stamps and dies, the Holly Berry stamps and dies, as well as the new B2B ovals. So before I started anything, I did go ahead and die cut the Holly Berry images, and I die cut my frame for my shaker using 2 of the oval images. One of the best things about any of the B2B frame shapes from Mama Elephant is the fact that you can very easily combine them to make little frames and things. Even if you just want a frame and not a shaker, or in this case, I'm going to create a little frame that definitely frames up my images. Now, I die cut the leaves from the Holly Berry set before stamping because I think it's easier to line them up this way. I did leave them in the cardstock and I taped it on the back. You saw me using some post-it tape, or low-tack tape would work as well. And that is going to keep your images in the shape that you want. It makes it so much easier to stamp them. And all I'm doing is lining up all of the greenery. These are multi-layering stamps. They're pretty easy multi-layering stamps, but that way I can stamp all the greenery at once. Now I do want to add some shading to this because I'm going to be adding stamped and colored images as well. And when I do that, I generally like for my images that are stamped and not colored to have a little shading so that they blend nicer with the Copic colored or Zig colored, whatever medium you're using is going to have some shading to it. So I am stamping first with a little Fairway Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink, and then I'm going to take a blending brush and add some color. Now I wanted to show I actually took the Field ink, which is the darkest ink in this particular trio of colors, and it just didn't create the shading that I was wanting for these. You can hardly see a difference. I decided, you know what, let's just go to a completely different color combo. So I went to the darker green color combo and used Pine, and Pine was perfect. I like how it looks with the Fairway ink. It definitely adds that darker color that I'm looking for. And I am using a small round blending brush to apply the color. If you try to use your big ink pad, you're going to get big areas of dark. And B, with using a blending brush, I can slightly blend out that color on my stamp so I'm not getting the harsh lines that you will often get. So this works really fast and easy. You can do it as many times as you want to. And once I had that looking the way I liked, I'm going to go ahead and clean these stamps and put them away and grab my next image. In this case, there is only one berry image, so we're going to have to move that, but I want to achieve the same effect. I'm going to start with Watermelon, Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink. We're going to blend on a little cherry color and ink that around the edge. They are really starting to come to life now. Now this image is the last one I'm going to use the Misty for, and I will show you why here in just a second after I stamp the next berry. Anytime you have some thin type of branches or balloon strings, anything like that that is a clear stamp, I find that it distorts, and I also find it's kind of hard to get it in your Misty where you want it to go. I'm going to go back to an acrylic block. So they are lettered on your carrier sheet that comes with your stamp set. So I'm just making sure I'm picking the right stem for the right image, and I'm going to use Mocha Simon Says Stamp ink and an acrylic block to stamp those. And unfortunately my camera died and I didn't know it. So I just did that with an acrylic block for all 3 of those. Now I want to build my background, and I am going to use 3 colors of Distress Oxide ink. We're going to use Spun Sugar, KITSCH Flamingo, and Festive Berries. I have really been loving the pink and red color combo this year. I don't know why. Every year I feel like I'm drawn to a certain color combination, and this must be this year's color combination. I'm just really loving it. So in addition to the background, we are going to color our images from the gift crate stamp set here in a minute, and I'm going to very much focus on red and pinks for that. After we have our background ink blended, I do want to add some detail. Now, I want to add detail with an embossing folder, but I also need to cut an oval from this so that I can make a shaker. Well, if I emboss this first and then run it through the die cutting machine to cut the oval, it's going to smash all of my embossing, at least a little bit. You'll probably be left with some. So I decided to take one of my B2B ovals. This is the bigger, or pardon me, the smaller one. And I am going to die cut that from the background I created. Then I'm just going to line them back up and run them through my embossing, or with the embossing folder, pardon me, it's the Glistening embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp from their recent Cozy Hugs release, and it has these beautiful snowflakes. There's also a coordinating die for that big snowflake. I didn't need it today. I just wanted a beautiful textured snowflake background. And then I'm going to place it in my splatter box and use some of the Cocktail Party Distress Mica Stain from Tim Holtz to add a little distressing to this, which is also going to give us some of those beautiful mica kind of splatter and make our background a little messy, which is what I'm looking for. Now I have a white top fold card base, and I will just set that aside for a minute so that I can color in my images. I was going to put together the shaker, but I think we're going to wait till we have everything, and then I'll kind of show you how I assembled the shaker for my card. I stamped the gift crate, and then of course the reindeer with all of the ornaments and candy canes, all the fun baubles that are in the crate on smooth white cardstock. This is Nina 110-pound weight smooth white cardstock with Hero Arts Intensified Black ink, which is my favorite ink for Copic coloring. And then I'm going to color in my images with Copic markers. I have listed the marker colors down in the description below for easy reference. Now, I accidentally got out of the lines a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I fixed that. I didn't worry about it too much. Most of the time, unless it's just glaring bad, it can be fixed. And because it was my lightest color, I just went ahead and left it. I'm using E55, 57, and I can't remember the last one that I used for the darkest areas, which I definitely will list in the description below as well as on my blog post, so you can find that information there. And I'm going to color that in, and then I want the ribbon to be red, of course. I'm trying to kind of keep my color combo to all red and pink for the most part, and then we're going to add in obviously the greenery from the Hollyberry set that we just stamped, which is beautiful against the pinks and reds. But I want this crate to be a nice neutral so that the ornaments really, really pop. And I completely colored over my ribbon too. I was in a messy mood apparently. Let's take the colorless blender, and I'm using the chisel tip to kind of try to push some of that ink back into the colored area. It's not going to be completely successful, and you want to be careful not to oversaturate the paper so more ink doesn't bleed outside. But then I'm going to take the other tip and I'm going to go around the edge and just kind of blend it back in. It lightened it enough that it didn't bother me to go ahead and use this image. So if you ever find that something like that happens to you, that is one of my favorite tips for fixing a coloring quote-unquote mistake. I will tell you, if it was red that happened with, red is usually not as quite as successful. Red does not like to go anywhere. Red is a difficult color to fix. We're going to keep working on this ribbon. I want it to be really nice and dark, and it stands out nicely against this crate. I think it would be fun if you had like a little tiny sign stamp image or something. You could almost stamp and color and place that on the front of the crate. That would be cute too. For my reindeer, I want to use a different color of brown. I'm using E40, 43, 44, and 47. And we're just going to lay down E40 for the antlers, and then blend in E43 and add in E43 is the base for our reindeer before adding E47 and E44 and then blending it all out. I do want to mention that I am keeping the speed of the coloring as the whole video is sped up. It is only sped up as fast as the rest of the video. Hopefully that gives you guys, I've listened to your feedback and read comments from last month when I asked about this, and you said definitely try to keep it a little slower, and when at all possible, as long as the video isn't too long with everything else, I will keep it on the slower side. You can change the speed of YouTube videos and watch them in slow motion if you need to. I would definitely probably turn off the sound so that my voiceover and talking about the car doesn't sound funny. But if you need to see the coloring even slower, that is a great option. I did not even know that was a thing. Some of you wonderful viewers told me last month, and I was like, wow, that is amazing. So keep that in mind as well. My favorite thing for candy canes this year, goodness knows why, I don't know, is the pink, red, white color combo and the bright pink, not a light pink. So my favorite coloring combo for bright pink this year is RV06 and 09 with R35 and 46 for red, and then some cool grays, whatever you got, and usually a colorless blender because we don't want the white to be gray. We just want it to have a tiny bit of shading. And then taking a white gel pen, which you'll see a little bit later, and adding highlights to the candy canes. And especially with a pink red color combo, I really like the addition of the pink in those candy canes. Other than the little Christmas tree on the one ornament, which I did color with G24 and 28, we're going to keep the ornaments to pink and red with maybe a little white thrown in a couple of them. The one ornament looks like it has snow dripping on it over there on the left side, and then I did keep a wide band around the ornament down there in the lower right, white, so just colored with some cool grays, just like the candy canes. And then the two skinny little stripes around the ornament kind of in the back on the left, I kept those grayish white as well, and that ornament is pink. And I just tried to not to put two that were the exact same color right next to each other. But I do want all the ornaments to be very, very similar, so I didn't worry about it too much. A darker cool gray will be used for the top of the ornaments, and we just want to add all that color in. So just a little cool gray, and then I started to color that out with like a C1. I think that was C3 and C1. I'll list those down in the description. And it was a little dark, so I took the colorless blender so I could just kind of smooth it out and push those inks out a bit, which is, again, one of my favorite tips. I do not refill my colorless blender. I did want to mention that. I buy a new one. I use it enough that I feel like a new marker is just, it works a lot better. So while I don't replace tons of my markers, and I do refill quite a few, I've started replacing some of them from advice from a friend who knows a lot about Copic markers, and just the fact that oftentimes a new marker is very beneficial for successful coloring. So there I'm adding in some cool gray to the top of my ornaments. I did go out of the lines a little at the bottom, but I'm not going to worry about it because that's going to be tucked into the crate. I do want to talk about the crate and the die that coordinates with it. It's amazing. It die cuts a line across that crate so you can tuck any of the images from the gift crate stamp set inside the crate, which to me is so great so I don't have to cut one myself. I think it's brilliant when companies and designers do this because it just works better. That means you can take any stamp set that you have. Maybe you have some past Mama Elephant stamp sets. I say this all the time when I do Mama Elephant or Lawn Fawn videos, but you can very, very easily mix and match with previous year's releases. So the reindeers are all going to look the same. Maybe you want to add some additional reindeer images to this, or from last month's release, or whatever the case may be. Before I commit to gluing anything down, I do want to play with the components that I have prepped. I want to make sure everything's flowing. I want to see if it's going to work. I did stamp this little tag. This little tag came in the oval set. You guys know how much I love that they include little tags in those sets. They can be used for anything. However, I don't think it's going to work for my card. And that's great, and that's fine. I'm going to save it for something else. I'm going to go back to my card base. I've got some adhesive in the center, and I'm going to use my frame as a guide so that I can press that oval to the back. That's going to be the back of our shaker. Then I'm going to take my frame itself and that thin white frame that I created from 2 of the B2B ovals, and I'm going to glue that in place right over the frame. And I like a little frame. I think it really kind of highlights the fact that we've built this little scene, and then we can definitely frame it up with all of our beautiful greenery. The other great thing about this greenery, I definitely went cutesy because I used some of the cute images, but this greenery would look amazing if you wanted to create some more elegant style cards with anything. So keep that in mind as well. So here's what it looks like. I'm going to take some 1/8 inch red tape. I want to use something nice and strong. I've really been loving this red tape from Simon Says Stamp. And I am going to back my frame, which is the embossed frame with a little thin white frame all the way around the front, with this strong adhesive. And then I am going to take a piece of acetate, and this is some Hero Arts acetate that I trimmed down just like a scant bit smaller than the 4 by 5 1/4, which I forgot to mention earlier. I'm so sorry. My background for the shaker is 4 by 5 1/4, meaning it's slightly smaller than A2. And I do that on purpose because then my card fits in a standard A2 envelope. Otherwise, the fit can be super tight if you're adding any type of foam adhesive. Once I have my acetate backed on my frame, I'm going to place this in my MISTI, and using my images as a guide, I am going to take this awesome greeting from last month's release stamp set, which is a fantastic basic for the holidays. And I'm going to stamp "Have a Jolly Christmas this year." Have a holly jolly Christmas this year. Which, can you even say that without singing it? In my head, Burl Ives is singing. But I stamped that right on the cover with cotton white StazOn ink. And I love stamping on my acetate. On acetate, the only ink that's really going to dry is a solvent ink, which I prefer StazOn, and white is my favorite. If you guys have been here for a while, you know that. And once it's popped up off the background, it really will show up. Now, I backed my entire frame then with 1 layer of foam adhesive. I don't really make my shakers super thick anymore. I used to, and I don't. I'm going to go ahead and place my shaker material right there in the oval. This is a new mix coming from Pretty Pink Posh this coming week, so little sneak peek of that. And I am going to place that on my oval and then place my shaker over the top, or my frame, pardon me, for the shaker over the top. And we filled our shaker with amazing holiday shaker material. Then I'm going to adhere my reindeer in the crate right there along the bottom, and we're going to tuck some greenery back behind the crate. And you can kind of play around. You could even stamp additional images. I kind of kept mine just to the images in the set. I didn't stamp anything additional, but if you want to do an entire frame or create an entire wreath for a card out of this set, I think you could pretty easily. It would be pretty big, but I think it would be amazing. And then I'm going to tuck, so I tucked some on either side of the crate, and then around the top I want to add some decorative element as well, because a lot is going on along the bottom, and I want the top to feature some beautiful greenery. And you can see I'm really layering how all of those go together so it flows nicely. Now, I did consider maybe die cutting like a paper bow and adding it at the top, or hanging the tag, but I felt like the tag just covered up too much of the greenery, so I'm not going to use it. A vellum tag would have been really cute, but I did not think of that when I was creating this card. I'm going to go in with my black jelly roll pen and add detail to the eyes so that they pop, and take a white jelly roll pen and add highlights to the hollyberry, to the large leaves, to the cheeks on our reindeer, to the crate, candy canes, ornaments. It gives the illusion of sparkle without actually adding any type of glitter sparkly material. You guys know I love my white gel pen, a little bit on the ribbon. Just little bits here and there really kind of help bring it to life, I guess, if you will. And then I'm going to go back to my black jelly roll pen and add detail into the nails along the crate. I purposely just colored over those, didn't worry about going in with a dark marker, and then simply added that detail in, which it really does add a little bit of eye-catching to those. And then I'm going to shake it up, and our card is almost finished. I do have some elements hanging off the edges that I'm going to trim away. And look at that beautiful pink and red cute shaker card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Mama Elephant stamps, dies, and products that you might be interested in. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you would like to become a member of Patreon, please click the link in the description below. We would love to see you over there as part of our growing community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new card making video or when I go live. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.